Welcome back. We've got so much to talk to Scott Peters about today. The sequester, the La Jolla Post Office. We caught him for just moments after you came in. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Congressman.
You're a first-turn congressman, so there are a lot of firsts for you. And last week you had a couple of bills introduced.
Well, I was chosen to provide the alternative to remove the sequester language from our budgeting process. A lot of us have been talking about how the sequester affects our districts. In San Diego, we're particularly hard hit in defense and in scientific research. As you know, I've been talking about that. I think you've had me on to explain that here. I was able to offer the motion to take that out of the bill so we can focus on a real budget. I wasn't successful, but I did get to make the floor speech, which was a tremendous honor.
Here you are.
And then the other thing we've been working on is, the post office is trying to make a lot of changes to how it does its, how it balances its books. Got a lot of competition from email. One of the things that folks are talking about is whether we should be selling post offices that maybe the Postal Service doesn't need anymore. And one of those is La Jolla. The community of La Jolla is really interested in saving the post office, keeping that position in the post office, which is in the village. It's a beautiful building. It's been designated historic. Susan Davis has carried legislation in the past, and now because of redistricting, it's in my district. And we introduced a bill last week to allow a community group to be the first person to purchase it if it does come up for sale, so that we can save that building and maybe continue to have the post office function right there in the village.
So does that bill focus just on La Jolla, or is it all-encompassing?
As a matter of fact, this is happening around the country. There are a lot of post offices with special significance to their communities. So this allows a nonprofit to come in and buy it so that it's not torn down or redeveloped into condos or whatever. I think people in La Jolla are pretty excited about it, and I think it'll help people around the country too.
Great. Congressman, while you're back home for just a few days, I understand you're going to be spending some time at some schools in Coronado. What's that all about?
Yes, doing a little tour with Congressmember George Miller from Northern California, who's a leader in education in the workforce. We're looking at some Coronado schools that are using personal technology devices in education. How do we all have these a lot of folks have these personal technology devices, whether it's smartphones or iPads. How do you use those in education? And Coronado's doing some pretty innovative things. We're going to go take a look at that today.
You turn right back around and go back to Washington, and getting back to this sequestration, there's deadlines coming up. Is there a sense of urgency in Washington? Because from the outside looking in, it doesn't really feel like it.
Well, there is for me. I mean, I'll tell you, the points I made were, 20% of Congress is brand new. 20% of people who are in Congress were elected for the first time this past November. And we've never had a chance even to vote on an alternative to the sequester, because if leadership doesn't want to bring something to the floor, we don't get to vote on it. As a point I made was, it's a lot different when I was city council president. I would never have thought of not to the floor.
Right.
So, but that's how it works in Congress. A lot of us are frustrated with that. March 27th is our real deadline, because that's when the government runs out of money if we don't do something. The House we took our first vote last week to continue funding the government, but we really have to move from this, budgeting by crisis, by deadline, to a real budget where we build a budget for the country around our priorities for national defense, scientific research, investments, where we balance the budget, we cut wasteful spending, but we don't threaten our country's future.
Are you sensing that spirit of bipartisanship that we always hear about when everyone, goes back to work, especially with that crop of new politicians?
Yes, I think one of the things that I've noticed, and a lot of us still are kind of scratching our heads about why we're not allowed to do more, is that those of us who came in November all had the sense that we were sent to fix, not to fight. And that's why I've joined a lot of the groups that are bipartisan groups that are designed for that, including a United Solutions Caucus, which is Republicans and Democrats in the freshman class saying, let's compromise and fix things. That was the mood of this past election. We still have that mood. There's a lot of us. We're trying to make sure that kind of permeates the whole Congress. And I think there's every reason to think that things will get better, but obviously we have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, but does it shock you / discourage you to see what the senior politicians do in Washington or don't do?
It is a little discouraging, but I guess that's not a surprise. We knew when you watch Congress, anyone could see in 2011 that it reached kind of a low point where, you know, we had our credit downgraded, and we came up with this crazy idea that's led to the sequester. We knew that this was going on. I have the sense sometimes that people have been around for a while. It's not them, it's the incentives. They would like to get out of this problem too. Yeah. And we're all going to work to rise above the bitterness and the partisanship to make things better. That's why I get up every morning. I'm an optimistic person by nature. And so I'm looking forward to helping to fix it. So
since you're optimistic, what is your feeling on the newly released February jobs report?
That was great news. I think that obviously there's a lot more work to do. We have a stock market that's doing very well, but we've had unemployment still a problem. Look from this jobs report also that it wasn't just high-end jobs that were getting filled. It was jobs kind of across the economy. So more progress. I think the thing we really want to do now is we want to get out of the way of that recovery. The problem with the sequester is it could take, if we let it play out, 3% out of the GDP at a time when we've only been growing by, under 2%. So we really want to get Congress out of the way of the recovery and let this economy start going again.
What's your take on the market doing so well with everything else seemingly up in the air when you talk about sequester?
Well, I mean, again, it's one of the indicia that things are getting better. It's not the only thing. And so I think it's good news. I think we still have to worry that we have pretty high unemployment across the country. In San Diego still, we still have veterans between 18 and 24 unemployed at a rate of 25%. So there's a lot of work to do. But if the economy's moving, it makes all of those tasks a little bit easier. And like I said, one of the most important things we can do in Congress is get out of the way, get a budget, provide some certainty so people will make investments again. And then, the economy will help us grow out of this budget problem.
Sounds like a good plan to us.
Okay, I'll go work on it.
Get to work, Congressman.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for stopping
Come
by.
back anytime.
Thanks for having me.